This is my custom PSP, or more specifically, the PSPspsp. You know, like how you call a cat. Yeah, it's a cat-themed PSP. I felt like there wasn't enough representation for cats in the gaming world. And also, I couldn't help creating an entire custom PSP just to be able to say PSPspsp. So let me show you how I did it. I bought a mint pearlescent white PSP online, which in hindsight, I should have just looked on Facebook Marketplace because I ended up effectively destroying a perfectly good PSP. Anyways, once I got the PSP in the mail, I couldn't help but homebrew it, which is an actually super easy process. And don't worry, I'll make a video on this later. For now, I have helpful links in the description. When I originally planned the video idea, I looked to see if there were any custom cases that were cat themed, to try to really deck the whole thing out. I did, in fact, find a very affordable Hello Kitty shell, but there was something in me that just was itching at the back of my brain, saying that it wasn't enough. So I ran to the craft store, searching for the perfect fabric to coat this thing in. Then I found it, the Holy Grail. I'm not kidding you when I say that I had a vision of exactly how I wanted this thing to look. And my plan was to have this ridiculously long Hello Kitty pink fabric just covering every single inch of it, like those special edition Sonic Xbox controllers. I looked like a maniac running to the fabric, but I ended up buying more than enough. So my thoughts were that it was pretty simple to take apart a PSP. Wrong. Also, I have had several comments on my short form content mentioning how cool of a case it was. A case. I could have done a case. If only I thought about it. I also could have fully taken the PSP apart, but after getting partially into the process, I gave up and went directly to gluing the fabric on. Dangerous, I know, but wait, it gets better. So I painstakingly traced, cut, and glue every single panel until I have this gummed up monstrosity. Meanwhile, my hands are covered in super glue and fur. I take a step back and marvel in this just monstrosity. And then I put it aside and went to bed. When I woke up, the entire screen of the PSP and the shelf that it was on was covered in this like frost. I looked it up, by the way, and apparently it's some kind of endothermic reaction that the glue was giving off while it was setting. Somehow, I had used so much super glue that the fumes had to settle somewhere. I still don't know how this has affected the components or the battery for that matter, but it still runs. On to the wallpaper. I searched everywhere for a custom cat-themed or cat-adjacent PSP wallpaper, and you would not believe how small the selection is for PSP themes. Most looked like they were made pre-2011, probably because they were. So I had no choice but to make my own. I've experience with this kind of thing considering I created a custom theme and splash screen for my Shrek DS. It was pretty easy due to the fact that it's just simple GIMP file editing in a compiled folder. But all things can't come this easy, and the PSP custom theme creation is a bit more complicated. I also won't go fully into this for the sake of time, but let's just say I had to spend hours on a forum completely in Spanish just to figure out how to download a pre-existing Kirby's Epic Yarn theme. You know, cause cats and yarn. Then I decompiled the theme to access the pre-built icons, to then learn from a 3-part series on how to recompile it with a special cat image file I stole off the internet as the wallpaper. Also, I could show it to you in the few seconds that it's in the video. I'm likely not going to play this PSP extensively either because now I'm too scared it's gonna blow up. Oh, I also forgot to mention that I thought it would be funny to make a USB plug that acted as a cat toy so that there was something about the PSP that was cat friendly. And you can play the PSP with your cat. I just cut a pre-existing cat toy and whipped out the super glue again and glued it onto an old broken micro USB adapter that was just laying around. It doesn't do much else. As for games, did you know that there are 2,487 PSP games that were released from 2004 all the way until 2022, apparently? And not a single one is cat-related. Not a single one. I think I spent a pretty good chunk of time on this project just looking through pages of games to see if any of them were remotely about cats. There's the pet series of games, but it's all dog and horse related. This was when I began to feel hopeless. How could I show off the cat-themed PSP without any cat gameplay? Then it hit me. I homebrewed this thing. I can play any game that I want. That is a limited selection of consoles no greater than the Game Boy Advance, but it can play Game Boy Advance. So I threw a GBA emulator onto the system, which was a single folder and the easiest step in this entire process. And I added a copy of Cats for the Game Boy Advance. And here we are, the PSPspsp. This thing is cursed. And not only does it look terrible, it feels terrible. Yeah, the hair shed everywhere, constantly, and they pick everything up, whether that be the oil on your fingers or the pounds of super glue dust in the air sticking all the fibers together. Also, has anyone ever wanted a handheld that they had to brush? Because I don't. This has to be my worst idea by far. Leave your comments down below on what other cursed handhelds I should make, and don't forget to hit all those buttons. I will see you next time.